In Minnesota, perinatal and postpartum mothers have legal protections to help keep them safe and healthy in the workplace. That means exclusions from heavy lifting, safe spots for breastfeeding, and more. The Women's Economic Security Act protects the rights of pregnant and postpartum women to work safely during pregnancy and to express breast milk at work. The Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry is here to help you and to protect your rights. Call 800-342-5354 or visit dli.mn.gov/newparents.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy. But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lulia. Clear overnight and a low of 73, then sunshine Friday and a high of 88. If you're thinking about transitioning to assisted living for yourself or a loved one, Episcopal Homes of St. Paul has been serving our community for over 125 years, and they have mandated that their staff be vaccinated against COVID-19. More at episcopalhomes.org.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power. We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. Wow, Peony Gigi for listening to the Native Roots Radio. We are so excited to have Dallas Goldtooth on, who's 1491er, Reservation Dogs now. We are so excited, but I just want to welcome Dallas Goldtooth on here and say a heartfelt Pinigigi thank you for all you did during Standing Rock. Those daily updates that you did really helped us feel safe when we did come to Standing Rock. So I just want to welcome Dallas Goldtooth to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
Hamadakipi, good to see everybody. And I really appreciate that. It's good to know that the work that I did and many others did, it really helped those who couldn't be at Standing Rock or those who did go. So thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Wow, and we're excited to have you here. I just want to get into this phenomenon called Reservation Dogs. We can't stop talking about it, and we just want to back up. We had Bobby Wilson on, who was just on the last show, and also I understand is one of the writers too that you've worked with for many, many years. Talk us through that experience and your experience with Reservation Dogs.
Well, first of all, I can't stand Bobby Wilson. I just can't stand. I hate that guy. Just kidding. No, I've worked with Bobby for a number of years. Actually, Bobby and I worked together at Undayung, which is a youth shelter there up in St. Paul, Minnesota, and that's where we first met. And ever since those days, we've have had the immense privilege to travel all across this country, performing comedy for Native communities, and it just feels so good to see where we've come. You know, we started off with doing our first show. One of our first shows was up in White Earth for the tribal council, and we got paid $200 each, and it was the really most pitiful, humble show. And now we can say we are writing TV shows on TV. So it's pretty awesome to see that journey.
It's awesome, and for us, it's great to see. I know Lewis always talks about when we're on the show and we talk about events like your show, how important it is for us as Native people to be out there. It's almost like I'm old. I'm 60 years old, so it's almost like watching the Flintstones, where there's two comedy shows going on at the same time. There's outrageousness, but there's always a lot of winking to us Natives, watching this.
Yeah, Reservation Dogs is a pretty phenomenal project to be a part of, and I'm so grateful for that. And I think that the showrunner, Sterling Harjo, which is another brother of mine that is one of the co-founders of the 1491s, he's gone to above and beyond the call of duty to make sure that the show not only has, Native topics and Native issues expressed, but that the folks behind the scenes are also Native. Like when I was on set, it's crazy. Like folks behind the camera, people holding the microphones, folks building the sets, the stuntmen, like they're all Native. And that was because the crew intentionally went out and made sure that Native folks were in a part of every aspect of the show. And I think that comes across. I think I've been hearing a lot of responses where people feel like, hey, this may be taking place in Oklahoma, but it feels very familiar to wherever I'm from as well. So that's really great to hear.
Yeah, and the rapper dudes are great. Those guys are hilarious when they're coming in, straightening out the kids and what's up and what he's the one that, I guess they're the ones that named them Reservation Dogs, which it was interesting. In the very first show, you could see in the young man, I can't think of his character's name, but he had a reservation or Reservoir Dogs poster in his bedroom when he was sleeping, and I went, okay, cool.
Yeah, you know what? I've always talked about this. A lot of friends, like whenever you get a bunch of Natives around and we're all in a group, like what typically happens is people start quoting movies that they've seen or talking about the movies. I mean, growing up, I grew up on the Lower Sioux Res and the Yankton Sioux Res in South Dakota and Minnesota. Spent some time up in Southside Minneapolis as a kid. And back in the day, you didn't have the internet, you didn't have anything, but what you did have is the ability to talk about the movies that you rented or the movies that you saw. And so even to this day, I think that's an aspect of how we interact that we wanted to put into that show, of all these little side references to the influential stories that we grew up with, right? Everything from the movie Willow, which is referenced in the names, the Lower Dannon, to Reservoir Dogs. Like these are very influential pieces of art that informed our comedy and informed the way we tell stories.
So how much ad lib were you able to do? Or are you doing like the script? Because I just thought it was hilarious when you introduced yourself and then you were talked about how you were at the Battle of Greasy Hill and then your horse hit a gopher hole, but you were, looking at, and then you gave all the names of Custer, and it was hilarious. And how much was that ad libbed, and how much did you write, or how much are you acting right off the paper or script?
I would say what you saw in the show is about maybe 50-50. Like it's so edited and edited in a way that I would say about more than half of it was improv. The script is amazing. The scripts for the entire show are pretty well put together. But the way Sterling works, I've worked with him for years on 1491s. He's very supportive of improv. And so on when we're shooting these scenes, he's like, oh, do this, try this out. How about you just do whatever you want? And so like shooting that first episode, I was ad-libbing, doing improv for maybe 40 minutes. And what you saw was like a minute and a half. So a lot got cut out, but I'm pretty happy with what was in there.
It was hilarious. Does any Ogama or Lewis, do you have any questions?
Yeah, absolutely. Dallas, thank you again for coming on Native Roots Radio. Growing up in Rapid City and east side of St. Paul, the very sacred way I grew up in the city or in Rapid, we didn't have Native representation on TV, and as Lakota Dakota Sioux people, we were kind of appropriated by Hollywood as it is. So fighting that trope. And one thing I really enjoyed about 1491s is you guys deconstructing that sacred Stoic Indian trope, and going on and just being real people. And growing up, seeing people like Charlie Hill in comedy really, for me, said, hey, man, there's someone that looks like me that's on TV. And one thing that's happened with my son, he's 12 years old. He's like such a great fan of yours, big fan of yours. He's like, wow, there's someone like us on TV. What does that mean to you as a person growing up the way, I'm sure we all grew up kind of similar, not seeing representation, especially in comedy on TV. And what does that mean for you going forward here?
Well, I think that, no matter what, whether we're seen in mainstream TV or not, we're still here. We still exist, and our voices still matter. I think that there's this inherent power to claim space, to take back space, and to and I guess I don't want to downplay. I totally don't want to downplay the power of seeing somebody that looks like you, or hearing or watching stories that sound like stories that you grew up with. I think that those are tremendous things that we should be grateful for. I think that the bigger part of this, though, is the power to reclaim how we talk about ourselves, the power to challenge what people think about Native folks. I think that's where I really I'm excited for, this opportunity. My character in the TV show and in Reservation Dogs is a great prime example of us kind of redefining what does the Native warrior look like and mean, right? Because it's basically what you see is our twisted imagination redefining that age-old trope of the Stoic Indian warrior. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm happy to it feels good that there's gonna be young folks out there that will see it. I don't know if it's age appropriate, but hey, you're the Native parent here, okay? You're probably letting your kids run around right now as we speak. So
judge me, please.
That's awesome. Hey, we only got a minute left in the segment, Dallas, but do you have the capacity to do another segment with us on Native Roots Radio?
Absolutely.
Wow, we're with Dallas Goldtooth of Reservation Dogs and 1491, and I just got to say also too, a big Pinigigi for your father. He's up there fighting Line 3, and it's just amazing what your family has done over the years, and I'm just so proud and happy to have you on the show. Really, I just why don't we take a quick break here? You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and we'll be right back. Hey, Wendy, what are we doing for dinner after the show?
How about we go to J. Selby's on 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul? They have a delicious plant-based menu that's compassionate and environmentally sustainable.
I'm getting their spot-on vegan Big Mac, the dirty secret.
You can pick up and they deliver within a 5-mile radius, or you can call them at 651-222-3263 or visit jselbys.com.
Well, you sold me, Wen. Let's go order at J. Selby's tonight.
I'm hungry.
Life is a journey, and the Doherty Family College will help you get where you want to go. Located downtown Minneapolis, this affordable 2-year college provides free textbooks, a laptop, meals, career coaches, one-on-one mentorship, and a Metro Transit pass, making DFC the perfect pathway to a bachelor's degree. Turn your dreams into reality. Connect with a counselor today at dfc.stthomas.edu.
Hey, Olgama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
When we heal from our traumas,
when we face our fears,
let go of our addictions,
when we relearn our values,
when we live our teachings,
respecting our elders,
cherishing and honoring our children,
when we honor and take care of our spirit,
there will be no room left for sexual violence.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
You're listening to Native Roots Radio. This is Spirit from Reservation Dogs. Get up and listen.
Well, welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and we're here with Dallas Goldtooth, Reservation Dogs, 1491ers, and also my go-to guy during the Standing Rock No Dapple happenings a few years ago, 4 years ago. And I just want to maybe start off a new subject here, Dallas, and just talk about what we're dealing here with. And I'm sure you're plugged in because your father's very involved with Stop Line 3 here in Minnesota. What are your thoughts and what are you hearing around Turtle Island?
Well, first and foremost, I want to give a shout out and love to all the water protectors who've been putting their lives on the line. We're risking arrest, who have been holding Enbridge accountable for the destruction of our planet, our climate, our wild rice beds, our sacred waterways. And, those are the true warriors, they're the true heroes in this fight. And there's a lot of folks in a lot of the camps that, we could spend an entire couple of hours just talking about who all needs to get recognized, but collectively, this is Indigenous resistance that we're seeing, and we need to support that at all costs. It's heartbreaking to see that Enbridge has gotten this far with no accountability from the state or the federal government. And, there's a whole range of issues, treaty rights, water rights, but in the grand scope of things, our planet is burning. Our planet is literally on the edge of death, or actually is on the edge of being able to sustain life on this planet, especially us as human beings. And, I think that this is a call, if I could say anything to our audience, whether they're native or non-native, now's the time to step up. Like, I know if people feel anxiety, I know you feel overwhelmed. You're like, I'm just one person, I don't know what to do. But here's a chance to do something. Whether it's calling out your politicians to step up, whether it's divesting from banks, whatever it may be, there's a lot of action that can happen because honestly, we're at the brink. And if you're Indigenous, you're Native, you're Dakota, you're Ho-Chunk, you're Menominee, or you're Anishinaabe, we have original instructions that have told us that we have a responsibility to care for our mother. So here's a chance for us to do that. The construction's not over, and folks are asking for people to go up north if you can. Please stand on the line. If not, talk to your tribal leaders. Call them. Send them a message. They're probably your cousin. They're probably on Facebook right now. Ask them, what are they doing about Line 3? So it's a chance. That's what I gotta say. It's a little spiel. I don't know if you asked for it, but that's my little speech to our relatives out there.
I did ask for it, and we normally, and we're going to do a little different show today because we have you on, but we normally start our show off with 10 minutes of news, and Ogama does the news, and we do a news report, and every day we're talking about Line 3 and what's happening around Turtle Island. Ogama, do you have a question for Dallas?
Yeah, I do have a question for Dallas. You've been working with these issues for a really long time, both under your father, which I believe is Tom Goldtooth, who helped found Indigenous Environmental Network. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes. Well, yeah. He was the executive director. It was founded by Indigenous grandmothers and youth. But yeah.
Thank you for telling me that. But yes, so the Goldtooth family has been involved in environmental activism and work for a long time. What was it like growing up being surrounded by that? I'm a parent, and my daughter, I camped out to Stop Line 3 like 7 years ago in northern Minnesota in Leonard. And she's 8 now. And this has been something that's been involved, that she's seen me involved with her entire life. And she considers herself a water protector. But what is that like for you, looking back as an adult, how that was during your childhood and your formative years where you have parents who are doing this work?
I think it was a privilege. I mean, I own that. Like, it was a privilege to have grown up around so many well-spoken leaders, being around a lot of activists and organizers. And so I don't want to squander that. I don't want to just like ignore that privilege. And I feel like there's a certain responsibility that I have to take what I've learned and heard over the years and share that and use that as a way to encourage others to step up. I'm not perfect. I'm not able to do all the things I want to do, nor am I able to do the things that people want me to do as well. So I think that if there's anything I've learned over the years, is that we have to have a lot of compassion and empathy for those who are willing to take risks, those who have take risks, and those who don't have any choice but to take risks. And really understand that in the end of the day, we're all human beings just trying to do our very best with the instructions that we've been given through our ceremonies and teachings and songs and so forth. So, and appreciate you for coming out and going up to Leonard to stand there. That's really awesome to hear. So, but yeah, thank you. Good. That's a good question.
Well, thank you for answering that. Yeah, Leonard was a long time ago. I like to joke that we camped out before Standing Rock, so we made it cool. And I don't know if you were there. I feel like that would have been probably the first time I would have interacted with you, would have been sometime around that point. My uncle was working closely with Indigenous Environmental Network at the time. Marty Kobanese was my uncle. So he got my father involved with it, who then in turn got my sister and I involved, and we were expecting. And now here we are again, 7-8 years later. And the fact is that we're still fighting this now. I mean, the Line 3 project has been ongoing for in upwards of 10 years now, that Native people especially have been putting it out there that this is a terrible idea for the planet and for treaty rights. Is there any one particular issue that you've worked with or that you've dealt with that hits closer to home than any other issue?
Well, Keystone XL was a major fight. And I wanted to say this, Marty Kobanese is an unsung hero in this fight. We would not have gotten a win against Keystone XL Pipeline if it wasn't for Marty Kobanese. I'll say that now. He's a Red Lake tribal citizen, is a public servant up in northern Minnesota, and does not get enough credit. He was the first one that went out and rode the line on Keystone XL and made a connection between white landowners and Native folks and trying to get them together on the same page. And so I just want to give your uncle a lot of love and recognition here in this space for being a major part of that win on Keystone XL, as well as being a part of the original fight against Line 3 and the Alberta Clipper and other projects that Enbridge has tried to shove through illegally in northern Minnesota. I think that, of course we could talk about Standing Rock, but I really would actually I was not involved in whatsoever, but something I saw was the protest down in Mauna Kea, down in Hawaii. And one thing I want to bring up there and just to point out is that was a place where you saw, for those that followed the protest at Mauna Kea against the TMT telescope, is that we saw folks who took peaceful civil disobedience, peaceful direct action, put their bodies in line and got arrested, but it was elders. It was older Native folks who started that off. They held that line. I say that and I bring that up because so often in our communities and cultures now, we're like, oh no, we can't do that. Oh, that's too risky. Or no, we that elders shouldn't be doing that. Well, it's all a matter of how you define action and whether we're defining it in non-Native terms or we're putting it within our own context. And we saw there, Kanaka Maoli, Hawaiian elders take a stand. And I'll just use that as a source of inspiration for other communities who want to take action and step up. That's all I guess I got to say about that.
Yeah, that's really a good point. We had a reporter giving us updates every week on what was happening there. KL Kelly, who's down there and calling in. Yeah, really good point. We only got a few more minutes left, but I would like to just circle back. Oh, wow. Wait a minute. Circle the wagons. What? No, I'd like to circle back to reservation dogs. And I just want to say something that you mentioned too. I feel like it has a lot of heart too. And it brings me back when we talked about movies like Smoke Signals, kind of a vibe with how some of them are being hit with their heart with what's going on, and especially the last series too, with trying to help people. I also, Bobby Wilson, now I'm rambling. Bobby Wilson mentioned too that he really liked the fact that we're getting piecemealed instead of just devouring the show of 10 episodes and being done in a day. I really like looking forward to next Monday and seeing the next one. I love that, Dallas.
Oh, I'm looking forward to everybody watching the rest of the season. There's 8 episodes in this season, so when we get to the 4th episode, that's halfway through it. And my character comes back at some point, and I look forward to see how people react to that. And there's just a lot in the show. Like, we have a lot more cameos from other Native actors in this, and I'm just really stoked. I'm really, really excited. So if folks can watch it, it's on FX on Hulu, and I'm just excited. I'm excited.
We're excited, and we're really been excited to have you on. I think what's really, really cool is like Bobby Wilson swore about 10 times. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to do some swearing here at the very end so Ogama can edit this. So go for it.
Well, do you know what I think about Anishinaabe people? They're no, you can bleep that all out, okay?
I can make that work.
That's what I think about Anishinaabe people. I love them. They're truly, truly powerful peoples. I just say that because I'm from Minnesota and we're outnumbered, even though you're on Dakota land.
Right, and don't forget the Ho Chunk have been here long.
Hey, Ho Chunks. Hey, I'm part Ho Chunk. I got
What?
family for Ho Chunk. So
right on.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a legislator in District 4. I'm in the government now.
Dang.
I know.
Big time now.
Lewis is going to give me a big belt buckle. I got to find a cowboy hat.
Yeah, in that way.
Yeah, in that way. Aho, aho, aho.
Peeny Gigi for being on. We were with Dallas Goldtooth, the Reservation Dogs, 1491ers, and just an all-around great guy. And hope to see you soon and maybe catch up again later on in the season. Peeny Gigi, thank you so much for being on.
Hey, appreciate you all. Thank you so much. You have a good day.
If you're hurting in your relationship or have been affected by sexual violence, you're not alone. Strong Hearts Native Helpline can help you through these difficult and uncertain times. Strong Hearts Helpline is a free 24/7 confidential domestic dating and sexual violence helpline for Native Americans. Help is available by calling 1-844-762-8483 or by clicking on the Chat Now icon on strongheartshelpline.org. This message is sponsored by the National Indigenous Women's Resource Center.
Is your remote workforce putting your company at risk? Cyber criminals are targeting your employees with COVID-19 inspired emails and attacking businesses like yours. Hi, Mark Sommerfeld from Rymark. Rymark has the tools and expertise to enable your employees to work securely from home. If you need help getting your staff to work remotely and securely, call 651-328-8900 or go to rymarkit.com. That's 651-328-8900 or rymarkit.com.
Hey, Patrick here for my cleaning heroes at Zero Res. Around my house, there have been a lot of projects I've been able to do myself, but I've learned that there are some things that should always be left to the professionals, especially carpet cleaning. Traditional carpet cleaning companies and DIY products use harmful soaps and detergents that can leave behind a sticky or crusty residue. That's why I only trust Zero Res with my carpet cleaning. They use their patented ZR water to deeply clean carpets while leaving behind zero residue, so your home will stay cleaner longer. If you haven't cleaned with Zero Res, your carpets have never really been cleaned. Right now, when you mention AM 950, you can get 3 rooms cleaned starting at just $149. And only in August, get a free dryer vent cleaning when you get your air ducts cleaned. Schedule your appointment today at ZeroResMinnesota.com or call 9520-RES. That's Zero Res. Forward or backward, it spells the same.
Hey, Wendy, what are we doing for dinner after the show?
How about we go to J. Selby's on 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul? They have a delicious plant-based menu that's compassionate and environmentally sustainable.
I'm getting their spot-on vegan Big Mac. the dirty secret.
You can pick up and they deliver within a 5-mile radius, or you can call them at 651-222-3263 or visit jselbys.com.
Well, you sold me, Wen. Let's go order at J. Selby's tonight.
I'm hungry.
Hi, everybody. I'm Santita Jackson, and I want you and all your friends to join my new show, The Santita Jackson Show, Monday through Friday, 6 to 8 a.m. Central on the Progressive Voice of Minnesota.
This is Chad, owner of AM 950. After the hailstorm last year, we had a number of people stop by the station letting us know we had damage. That's when I called our trusted contractor, Snap Construction. Turns out we didn't have any damage and our roof was still in good health. Ryan, is it common to hear you have damage when you don't?
Chad, this can happen more times than not. At Snap Construction, we'll give you a thorough assessment and let you know the condition of your roof. We are trusted by a number of insurance agents in the metro to give them just that, an honest assessment. Last year's storm is just starting to reveal damage on homes that didn't show damage last year. If you were in the path of a storm and were denied, it's worth an extra look. Freezing, thawing conditions and spring rains will wash away the damaged granules that are covering up damage from last year's storm.
Call Snap Construction, arguably the most well-reviewed exterior contractor in the metro area, at 612-333-SNAP or find them online at snapconstruction.com.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lulia. Clear overnight and a low of 73, then sunshine Friday and a high of 88. Hazel's Northeast is now open Tuesdays through Sundays, offering the most creative comfort food you'll find. They're at 29th and Johnson in Minneapolis, just minutes from 35W. More at hazelsne2go.com.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. Wow, that was really fun, right, Lewis?
Oh, man. I mean, how many times do you get to do that, Robert, with a guy like that and just an up-and-coming guy? So, I mean, one thing that was just amazing is that he spent half the segment talking about water protectors and uplifting others. That says a lot right there, Robert.
Definitely. And I didn't know he worked with Enda Young. Wow, what a rich history Enda Young has, having a lot of people go through there over the years, helping our homeless children. And wow, that's just amazing. Speaking of amazing, our regular guest here on Thursdays is Robert Lilligren, who's the director of the Native American Community Development Institute. And I always have a little tongue twister problem, always. Sorry about that. But we're always excited to have Robert on. And Robert, welcome to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake.
Yeah, bonjour, Robert. Louis, Ogama, it's so good to see you. Thanks for having me on.
Well, Ogama's not on today because...
Oh, I thought I saw her. Oh, that was a recording.
You would have got your invite earlier if Ogama was...
Oh, right. It was a little last minute. And hey, I got a bone to pick with you guys, putting me on after guests like Dallas Goldtooth and Bobby Wilson. Those are tough acts to follow, man.
You're the designated hitter. That's how you should look at yourself. Yeah.
I feel like I'm the cleanup guy with broom and mop that comes in.
No, but I really, yeah, really, and it's exciting too. I know. I felt like Chris Farley talking to John Lennon, going, that time you called us all out to Standing Rock, that was really neat. It's like, what's wrong with me? But we have fun, Robert, and here's another younger person who's really making us all proud out there. Is him and Bobby. I know Bobby was a student at Harding too, and it's just crazy. It's just awesome.
Yeah, right out of the Minneapolis, right out of the cultural corridor, and it's just so great to see these shows, coming forward and really educating, other non-native folks about some real life, right? And I've recommended Rutherford Falls. I haven't watched Reservation Dogs yet because I don't have Hulu, but I will get it to watch it. But people are just amazed, they don't know any of this stuff is going on.
One thing I want to say. Go ahead. Yeah, one thing I just wanted to say, Robert, is it's amazing. Native American Community Development Institute is right in the heart of Minneapolis and St. Paul is kind of an indigenous hub, so to speak. I mean, we have our Anishinaabe brothers and sisters from the north. We have our Dakota, Santee people, and then people like me who are Lakota that aren't in this area too. And of course, our Ho Chunk brothers and sisters. I couldn't say that without getting canned here, Robert.
Right.
I think it's such an amazing experience when we talk about us coordinating and being active together and kind of creating an amazing, unique indigenous community in the Twin Cities. And your organization has been at the key of that.
Well, I hear you, and we're really kind of living in the legacy, right, of our founders, I call them, the American Indian movement, and others that really established Minneapolis and St. Paul as an activist and advocacy hub, and we benefit from that so much, right? We have a whole community, a level of the community that's really engaged in with non-native agencies and government, with policy. Just where my office sits on 14th and East Franklin, the American Indian Cultural Corridor, where Powwow Grounds is. I'm wearing my Powwow Grounds shirt. There we go. Powwow Grounds Coffee Shop is our gallery, All My Relations Arts. Within maybe half a mile, there's maybe 40 or 50 Native organizations, agencies, all within that that recognizable Native kind of district within Minneapolis, which is rare. It doesn't really exist in other parts of the country. So when I sit there, I feel like, okay, this is our legacy. This is what our elders and founders left us. Now, what do we do with it? How do we parlay that into more and more progress? And how do we then hand it to the next generations even stronger than we found it?
Well, Robert, when we were young, that area was bars and street fighting, and it is. If people aren't from the Twin Cities, they don't really understand that the transformation, like you said, from our elders and you too. You are an elder of sorts now.
Getting there. Got a lot of weight.
I'm a junior elder according to my tribe, but
you guys both can dance Golden Age. That's all that matters, right?
Right.
One thing I want to get back to, Robert, you touched on for a second there, was that, with Rutherford Falls, and again, too, I didn't really, again, say this question this well with Mr. Goldtooth, is that there's two shows going on at once. Like the Flintstones, there was the adult part and the children part. And I feel like there's the regular person part and the native part, because I know with Rutherford Falls, Wendy and I were going, oh, did you hear what they just said? Did you hear what they just said? They mentioned this. Or even when he opens up the safe with all his medallions, and Wendy's like, I got to get you a safe, it looks like now. But it's just like that. It's just like non-natives would probably go, wow, what's he doing? Oh, it must be really expensive medallion. And we're just going, no, we really like our medallions.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting, but it's kind of the inside knowledge or whatever. And I was going to share this experience with you. A week or so ago, I was watching the game show Jeopardy, and one of the categories was interior. So it was all about the Department of Interior. You had all these total brainiacs that were just answering every question. They get to the last question in the category, the biggest buck question. They just put up a picture of Secretary Deb Haaland. They asked this super easy question, something like, with a name that reflects a European country, this is the first Native American cabinet secretary in history. And none of the contestants could answer that. None of them knew who Deb Haaland was. And I was just like, what? I was just screaming like, what? In our world, that's the biggest thing going. But it just shows that divide of kind of what people in the community know, what people on the outside of the community don't know.
Right. And with your help too, we have a lot of white people that are our supporters that are learning a lot with your help of what's going on, and other people's help that we get on the show. Our allies are learning things that they never had any idea what. So that really bums me out, but it doesn't surprise me.
It doesn't surprise me either. It's amazing how many times I'll address non-native groups or something, and then afterward, these people, elders, non-native elders, will come up and they'll say, well, why didn't I know any of that? I never knew any of that before, and I always say, well, it's not accidental. It's not accidental that you don't know anything, any of that. And so, So the more we can do that and kind of get in there and change some systems. That are a really interesting meeting today about our good friend Courtney Cochran's work that's going up at the Wall of Forgotten Natives. It's about to be installed. It's a MnDOT project, MnDOT funded, MnDOT supported, and they're trying to, acknowledge that something significant happened there when our relatives camped there on their property. And so we're doing this community project. It might lead into more. Courtney has been great, and I know you've talked to her on the show, and we're big fans of hers. But then we sat down with some MnDOT agency folks today and kind of evaluating the process, how it went, our little tiny 10-person organization working with this mammoth, state agency. And so just giving them some pointers on how they can work better with the community. And Angela Two Stars, our All My Relations arts director, huge presence in public art now. And she's had these incredible, thoughtful things to say. We talked about how we felt we needed to protect Courtney through the process. So, the MnDOT bureaucracy and stuff didn't just crush her spirit and her artistic creativity. Man, she just hung in there. And so we got through this, and we'll see if we can get through more. But that's kind of what NACTI does, right? We're in in the community doing the cultural and arts-based projects or whatever, and then we're in the system trying to change it for the better.
Yeah, I can't say enough about Courtney. I'm in contact with her too, quite a bit on this project and other projects too, and just to get those letters, and she wanted me to hook her up with some AIM people, and and that worked out with Lisa Bellinger, and to paint those murals. And it's just like, oh, she is doing this the right way and asking our relatives so much the right way. It's just a beautiful thing to see.
It's a beautiful thing. And then she really built authentic relationships with our relatives who are living in encampments, right? At the wall and since, and working on this project. And, she has been working on a documentary on the Wall of Forgotten Natives. I think you know that. But also during this community arts process, where she's created those letters that spell out not homeless before 1492, right? Isn't that what it says?
Right.
And so it's been so authentic at every level of community, and I got to tell you, when we first started working with MnDOT, we said, well, if we convene community and you want to see community messages, posted on the fence around the Wall of Forgotten Natives, you're going to hear things you don't like. They're not going to say, and so then when we got to Courtney's vision of never homeless before 1492, MnDOT kind of freaked out. They're like, oh, we don't know if we want to put that up. It's like, come on, man. This is what we told you was going to happen.
Robert, do you have time for another segment?
Yeah, happy to.
Awesome. Hey, you're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and here with Robert Lilligren, director of the Native American Community Development Institute. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
In Minnesota, perinatal and postpartum mothers have legal protections to help keep them safe and healthy in the workplace. That means exclusions from heavy lifting, safe spots for breastfeeding, and more. The Women's Economic Security Act protects the rights of pregnant and postpartum women to work safely during pregnancy and to express breast milk at work. The Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry is here to help you and to protect your rights. Call 800-342-5354 or visit dli.mn.gov/new parents.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy. But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
This is Winona the Duke of Honor the Earth, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio. I'm awake.
We are Alusa Nation.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host Kunja Hade. Hey, I was at Winona's birthday party last night in Duluth. That was amazing. All these bands fighting line 3, and it was just an amazing situation. But I was old. I had to leave before the big act came on, and I had to drive home, so I could go to bed by 11:30. Hey, we're here with Robert Lilligren, who is the director of Native American Community Development Institute, and we're totally blessed. I was gushing over Mr. Goldtooth, but we are truly blessed to have you, Robert, on our show every week. Whenever you have the capacity to come on. Really, just the insight, the history we're talking about, and what we're still here, just all those things. What else has you got going on? Because I really like to hand this over to the guest, and sometimes I talk too much. But what else do you have going on this week?
Well, thanks.
I want to ask you how Rosie's opening went too.
That's what I was going to talk about, and so I did talk about a little last week. And thanks for your kind words. I think you way oversell me, but so last week a new show opened at All My Relations Arts Gallery, which is owned and operated by NACD, and the director there is Angela Two Stars. And this was just one of those opportunities that kind of popped up. Rosie was looking to install this show somewhere. For a period of time, and we had an opening in our gallery schedule, and so it opened last week. It's called A Place for Rest, and it's this incredible multimedia space that's to, in her words, contribute to the healing of generations on the river behind us, our ancestors on the and then the river in front of us, the generations yet to be born. It's really about sort of a place to grieve. The gallery is dark, and then there's lights and mixed media, music as well, movement. There's actually movement involved, and it is a major exhibition. And so I would really encourage folks, if you're in the Twin Cities, to go by All My Relations Arts and see this show.
So is it a show, or can I just show up like I do in the middle of the day and go in there?
You can just show up. It takes a little bit of curation, and we're kind of settling on how we're gonna bring people through this show. During the opening, it was really crowded. It was our first gallery event opening since COVID, and it was great. A great crowd. Only maybe about half a dozen people at a time could go into the gallery, so we kind of curated the entrance and exits. But you can go in anytime during the day, Monday through Saturday. I hope that's right. 10 to 5, if I'm not mistaken. And
go ahead. I'm sorry. I was going to say one of our regular listeners said we didn't howl, so I wonder if we can just say this portion is brought to you by Howling for Wolves. Howl.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna howl, but then there was that little bit of voice that came after the howl. So there we go. I am grooving on all your fancy graphics, man, that you have going on. Is that you, Louis?
That's me here. That's so I'm making the big bucks. So
yeah, I see. Well deserved.
Right on.
Well, so Robert didn't tell you about Honor of the Earth yet. One of LeDuc's birthday party. He stage dived 3 times. We don't have it on film. That's what. Yeah.
We did a live show up there, Robert. It was.
I saw.
Stressful.
Yeah, I bet, but it looks super impressive. Yeah,
and it sounded good too, which I was happy about, because you always wonder with the rock bands and stuff playing, you're 50 feet away from the biggest speaker you ever seen in your life, that it comes off all right.
Well, when you were talking about it a minute ago, and you said you're old, so you had to leave early. I was kind of wondering if they made you leave early. It's like, okay, you gotta go. We
Maybe
want
a
to have some fun here.
maybe a combination of both, but yeah, it was really interesting, and it was interesting to watch because it was an all day festival. And when I got there, it was like, oh, there was like 5 to 900 people, and then by the time I left, there was like 4 or 5,000 people there. And I was like,
Nice.
whoa, this is for real.
Yeah, it looked just amazing. Just amazing.
So, one thing I just want to mention too, and I know you mentioned this on my day off when you were on, that Rosie's mother, who passed this past year, was so huge in radio, and she did the book "We're Still Here" with all those AIM pictures, and her legacy.
Yeah.
It's great to see generations follow, like you, because
I
you're
agree.
too.
You're so kind. So with Laura Waterman Whitstock, an AIM founder, we're losing those founders, and such a legacy. She founded McGizzy Communications, or McGizzy as it's known now, the whole youth program involving in communications.
Mhm.
Actually, my older sister is, I think, one of the first, if not the first, employee of McGizzy back in the
Wow.
70s. Yeah. So, there's all this going on, and it was a really hard loss. And I hadn't seen Rosie since her mom passed, and so it was just wonderful to see her. I lost my mom in this last year as well, and
Right.
and then there was a local journalist who was looking to connect with Rosie about the show. So it had brought him in. And so we were standing there talking, and he lost his mom in the last year. And if it doesn't show you why it's so important to have a show like Rosie's that kind of gives space for grieving and things, it's been a hard season of a lot of loss. And so it
And
makes your show even that.
Wendy lost her mom too,
Oh,
a year
Jesus.
and a half, and it's just
Yeah.
at a fairly young age, 79, which
Oof.
it was real sudden in a sense of, she was in good shape and everything, and all of a sudden the big C word got her, and it was sad. But yeah, I remember your mom too. Geez.
Yeah, yeah, it's been a tough year.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I mean, it's time to really, I'm really careful, and I guess I'm just talking a little personal, Robert, is that
Yeah.
Friday we're going to try and get out to the powwow out at Mystic Lake, and
Nice.
that's going to be a lot of people. So it might be one of the last big things I do until we get this the FDA approval and get people mandated to take this shot.
Yeah, yeah, I'm getting a little more cautious myself, so I'm probably gonna avoid big crowds like that,
Oh,
but more power to you. Stay safe and have a good time.
right. Yeah, it's scary though, and I know you had the opening, and we're all like really beat down from COVID, and we want to get out there, and we got the Delta variants, and we have our young ones to worry about. My daughter's getting married
Oh
next,
yeah, so exciting.
and it's indoors, and there's some people that aren't vaccinated, so it's really stressful. It's very
Yeah,
stressful because
yeah,
you love your family, but you also wonder about choices that they're making, and it could affect you.
right, right. Well, and then you look at vaccination rates; they're highest among Native people. I mean, as a demographic group, it's been really interesting. I think this journey in that I think a lot of Native folks would be tend toward vaccine hesitancy. And I think as a
Right.
community, we've just done a great job of, trying to protect our elders, trying to protect our youth, really making it a almost like a community or cultural statement, right? To protect the generations to come. And I'm in a couple tables where they're trying to talk about how to address hesitancy in lower wealth browner communities. And I just raise up, what Native community did was really tailored the messages to the culture, to the community, and with incredible success. And so I think there's something the rest of the world can learn from us.
Exactly. And we're doing here pretty well in Minnesota, 70% with at least one shot. So I'm ready to get my third one personally.
Here,
Seriously.
here, I am too, just waiting
See.
for the day.
Robert, Peeny for being on. You're always first fiddle for us, even though we pop in, Mr. Goldtooth there.
Yeah,
Hey, I would like to end with these thoughts. If you're listening to the show, you are part of the resistance. From Chief Plentycoops, the ground on which we stand on is sacred ground. It is the blood of our ancestors. We need to resist, divest, join a group, run for office. Peeny to Robert Lilligren, Lewis, and Dallas Goldtooth for being on. We're still here. We are the 7th generation. Stop line 3, free Leonard Peltier.
Hi, I'm Alicia Luther Toms, certified financial planner with RBC Wealth Management. I'm